have the honour and the privilege of introducing our first speaker, Professor Sarah-Jane Paine, no ngai Tūhoe, and she is in the Faculty of Medical and Health Sciences. Sarah-Jane is a professor in Māori Health at Te Kupenga Hauora Māori and the Research Director for Growing Up in New Zealand, the largest contemporary longitudinal study of child and youth wellbeing in Aotearoa New Zealand. For more than 20 years, Professor Paine has been at the forefront of the development of kaupapa Māori epidemiology, working with Māori colleagues and communities to use data to develop our understanding of health as a human and Indigenous right and to generate solutions built out of hope and for intergenerational healing. Join me in welcoming Sarah-Jane Paine.
E aku rangatira, e aku hua mahi, hiri no te whare nei tēnā koutou. Day after day, I'm sitting with hope. When I look at her eyes, hold her hands and study her face, I'm noticing every contour and imagining them to be the markings of a long story filled with love and joy, fear and sadness, challenge and aspiration, and somehow always determination. As each day goes by, I realise that sitting with hope is not always an easy task. Hope is not saccharine or soft. She is courageous and fiercely honest. And when you sit close, she requires you to look beyond what we might want for now to see other potentials and possibilities. And in those days when it feels like hope is gone, I look up and remember that the markings of love and joy, fear and sadness, challenge and aspiration, and somehow always determination are not only in my memory. They are etched there in the tāhuhu, heke and pou of our wharenui. They appear in the kōwhaiwhai and tukutuku. And it is in these contours of hope that we have created the space for our stories to be told and shared. Looking around, I see that we are all sitting close to hope, but I wonder if we are ready to feel her courage and hear her fierce honesty. Are we ready to look beyond the challenge of the now times so that we can continue the process of imagining what could be? My journey into research begins and ends with the hopes of my whānau and their vision that through higher learning and mastery of specialised skills, we will contribute to the dreams of home. My research journey has also been lifted by the vision that it was possible and indeed necessary to grow a Māori health research workforce. And with that vision came investment, in my case from the Tūhoe Waikaremoana Trust Board, the Māori Education Trust, the Māori Health Committee of the HRC, and Ngā Pae o Te Māramatanga. And I think it's important that we emphasise the visionary element, because as Māori, we have not stumbled into the university system and found ourselves here by happenstance. Higher knowledge institutions have been part of our hope stories for generations. And even in more contemporary times, iwi have been actively participating in the building of universities, creating spaces where their Māori students and scholars could sit together in hope, with courage and fierce honesty, so that we would one day contribute to the dreams of home. My research journey is also part of the long hope story that is known as kaupapa Māori research. While I was taking my first steps as an undergrad science student, Māori were drafting the Hongoeka Declaration for Māori Health Researchers. Signed in 1996, the declaration identified a vision for health research to be a space where Māori would determine and coordinate our own research, and we would set our own standards for health and wellbeing. That I can position myself as a kaupapa Māori quantitative researcher who studies trajectories of wellbeing over time and generations is a testament to that vision. Sitting with courage and fierce honesty, they looked beyond an epidemiology that uses Māori data to tell stories of desolation and despair, and instead imagine a new field, a kaupapa Māori epidemiology, where we would use our own data to tell our own stories, and in doing so show the world not only as it is, but how it ought to be. How I think about research has also been shaped by the hope stories of the thousands of research participants in my projects. When I studied the problems of sleep, our kaupapa Māori epidemiology showed for the first time that Māori experiences of sleep disruption had nothing to do with poor behaviour and lack of routine, and much more to do with the stresses of concentrated impoverishment and the hardships that come with living and working in a 24-hour society. In the data, we saw how people are sacrificing their sleep to protect the hope stories of their whānau. And I don't say that to romanticise our sleep-depriving social and economic environments. Rather, let's see the courage that exists in our communities to look beyond the challenges of the now time and with aspiration and determination contribute to their dreams of home. Māori hope stories have also taught me about the practice of research as an ethic of care. When I went around asking Māori colleagues and participants about their hopes and concerns for genetic research, I heard the careful balance of the fears that are often attached to new technologies and their hope that something might change for the better. And these fears are not always unwarranted. The memories of research done on us, not with us, or sometimes even for us, are ever present. And yet, they were courageous enough to sit closer to hope and to look at the question with a different gaze. And when they did, they spoke less about the technology and more about the importance of tikanga for keeping our hope stories safe. Following the lives of more than 6,000 young people since before they were born, the Growing Up in New Zealand study is capturing an intergenerational vision. For example, when their mothers were asked about their hopes and dreams for the future, they said things like, "I hope my baby grows up in a safe and happy environment, that it feels loved and it is aware of helping make the world a better place. I want my child growing up feeling safe, confident and able to achieve what they set their minds to do, that they are not limited by our society." 8 years later, when those children were interviewed for our study, we learned why they take part in research. They said, "I know that people will use the info to make New Zealand a better place to live in. I get to make sure the next generation can live a happy and healthy life." And when we surveyed that same group of young people after the 2023 extreme weather events, rangatahi had this to say to their peers and to society: "Give us younger generation the opportunity to participate and support those in need. Find ways that we can, as young people, help our community. Don't worry about what's happened. Keep your head up high and look forward to a better future." In her recently published book, Hardship and Hope, Stories of Resistance in the Fight Against Poverty in Aotearoa, Rebecca McPhee shares this definition of hope. Hope is not optimism. Hope, like love, means taking risks and being vulnerable to the effects of loss. It means recognising the uncertainty of the future and making a commitment to try and participate in shaping it. To hope is to recognise that you can protect some of what you love, even when grieving what you cannot. And to know that we must act without knowing the outcome of those actions. Sociologist Ruha Benjamin builds on this when she writes, "Hope is something we do, not just something we feel. If hope is a discipline, that means we can practice hope. We can strengthen it like a muscle that powers our work. We can seed hope and water it so that it grows, nourishing our efforts to make this world more joyful and just." And maybe this is what we mean by Māori Research Excellence. Maybe it is part of a discipline of hope, where colleagues and students practice vulnerability, recognise uncertainty, and actively participate in world building for joy and for justice. Where Waipapa Taumatarau is a space where our hope stories are cared for and protected, and that as a broader university community, we see Māori research as acting with hope and bringing hope. Maybe we are taking part in what Moana Jackson imagined for Aotearoa when he spoke about creating hopeful change. And finally, perhaps we will be courageous and fiercely honest, and like hope, We will uncover the long story of this place and her markings of love and joy, fear and sadness, challenge and always aspiration. Working together with determination, all of us contributing to the dreams of home. Kia ora.